One-on-One. I'm your host, Lee Adamston. Today we have part 3 of our special guest. He's going to talk about those great Pittsburgh Steelers teams of the 70s. They went to 4 Super Bowls. They won 4 Super Bowls. They put Pittsburgh on the map in many ways outside of the steel industry. And we have a very special guy that's spending time in our studio today. Please let me introduce the shutdown corner, the first-round draft pick of the 1973 Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. J.T. Thomas. J.T., it's a blessing to have you here.
Oh, it's a blessing to be here, Lee.
Wonderful. Part 2, we were talking about, and if you don't know, we have part 1. We had part 2, and now this is part 3. And on the earlier interviews we did with JT, and they're all on YouTube, we were talking about training camp of the Pittsburgh Steelers and how each of your steel curtain was holding each other accountable. And you were talking about Chuck Noll and what he was saying during all this. So why don't we go there?
Yeah, in terms of the accountability, there was a dependency that you felt, no matter how good you were. The way Chuck philosophy was this, that there was a dependency that I need you. And how he would reinforce that in conversations, he would say something to myself or Mike Wagner, Donnie Shell. He'll tell Donnie, listen, you're not good at that. Well, that's kind of like a negative thing. You're not good at that. He say, you do this well, okay? JT or Wag, he good at this. So basically, don't you do that, allow him to do this. That's his role. Then you're feeling pretty good, yeah. Well, JT, you know what? You're not good at that. Donnie's good at that. Oh. So what you create a dependency there, but you become aware of who he is and his value to you. Because Chuck will tell you, yeah, you're great here, but you suck here, and vice versa. So now you don't get all the big head that you can do it all by yourself. So you can see the dependency that he steals, that I need you. Not only I get to the point where I need you, I know you, so when you're out of position, I feel you. I can cover for you instinctively. And because of that attitude, and we would do things instinctively on the field. We may call a play. We didn't run that play. We played what we saw. And if the play they called fit the situation, we did. But because of that dependency, we may have called a man coverage, and we flip the coverage, and it's all synchronized into a zone because a zone coverage fit what was happening. And so you get into the point where you play, we don't run the play unless that play fits the situation. We played what we saw a lot of times, and then became very critical. So what are you guys running? Well, we don't know what we're running, but it fits the play. So what we were doing, we were playing what we see and running the play second.
Yeah. Was Bud Carson the architect of the steel curtain?
Yeah, and he gave you that option because there's certain things about the game, that you have to respond to. It's kind of like if someone swing at you, you may be walking forward, but you're gonna lean back. So we're walking forward, but you can't walk into someone swinging at you. So it was that type of the way we looked at football. That play was called, but you can't run that play. If we think they're gonna run a dive and everybody's going deep, well, you can't run that stunt up there. You can't play that way. So it was that type of freedom set with certain parameters or principles that you operated in, as opposed to you do this, you do that. And so, yeah.
Who was your roommate? Who was your first roommate?
Oh, my first roommate was Franco Harris.
Oh, Franco Harris.
Yeah, well, yeah. Franco,
I think we know him.
Yeah, Franco was my first roommate, and it was just, I had no idea. Like I say, ended up He made me my first $900 in life. And
Did you tell him that story?
yes, I did, and he tried to collect on it. Matter of fact, one of the kind of talk about it. One of the high points of this 50th anniversary celebration was me to let people know that he started my career financially, and that I owed him a portion of those funds. And I was to calculate. He had told me, well, you know that calculate? I was, he said, you can put in there $900 for 50 years at 10%, and half of it is mine. And I'm supposed to have explain that to the people at this 50th anniversary, how I got this money and why he wanted half, and what that amount would be after 50 years, 10%. And I asked him, I said, well, where you get 10% from, Franco? Where you pull that from? God used 10%, so I can use 10%. I said, oh my God, So, but that unfortunately that never happened. I was going to calculate up the money, worked it all. But that was the one of the high points for me to own this money for 50 years. That he had jump started my career. And, yeah.
Did you always room with him?
No, I roomed with him my first year, maybe my second year, and Lynn Swan wanted to hang around Franco, so he come to train him early one of those years, which is unnatural for Lynn. He needed to come last when all the cameras there, but he came early this year. He wanted to room with Franco because that's a great place to be with Franco. So he picked Franco.
Everybody loves Franco.
Everybody loves Franco, so he picked Franco that year. And I think I ended up that second year, only 1 year, thank God, room with French Fuqua. That was he's old school football, real old school.
But he didn't have old school shoes.
No, matter of fact, I would watch him feed those fish in those shoes
In
at
those
night.
shoes.
Yeah, he was, and then he was the count. He dressed, he was a flair. Didn't sleep a lot. That was just the nature of prior to the Chuck Noll era of football, where guys stayed out all night before the game. They leave the bar. That was the 60s mentality. So he had a very unstructured, old school way of living that kind of what Chuck Noll would, propose.
Not everybody knows this, but he had those high-heeled, high-top shoes, and there were fish in the shoe, in the heel.
Yeah, he had to walk very gingerly because you kill him, but but he was and he would feed them at night. I watched him up there. He was a smoker and didn't sleep much. It was just part of the game night. Was just he thought it was a party night, and I found out back in the day when Bobby Lane, they would leave the bar and come to the stadium. It was just so that was a whole different era where curfew. What was that? So this was going against Frenchy's repertoire or lifestyle, but so he was, he and Russell, those guys come out of that era, where guys, drank, had a good time, smoked.
So you're a defensive back and considered a shutdown corner.
Well, back then they didn't call it. That terminology had not been coined yet. Matter of fact, not only coined, it wasn't even recognized. When I was a defensive back, what they recognized were one thing: interceptions. That was the only yardstick. Or if you got beat, then you're out of here. Today, after free agency in the early 90s, they came up with a shutdown corner or a lockdown corner. In other words, the quarterback's not going to throw the ball, so they started really even breakups. How many passes you break up? Well, if you broke up passes, if they didn't throw to your side all day, or haven't thrown to you, or no one called any passes on you, Chuck Noll would come in and say, "Great game, T. Easy day at the office." It was called Easy Day at the Office. They didn't recognize the talent. But if
But
they
isn't that the highest form of respect, that the quarterback is not thrown in your direction?
it was. Well, it all depended on the standard. At the time, I was pissed because not only that, you get paid for interceptions too.
And so you wanted them to throw your way.
I wanted them throw, and
Did they throw more to Mel Blunt's side?
Well, I tell Mel all the time. I said, Mel, why were they throwing at your ass, not at me? I mean, I admit you the baddest cornerback in history. I mean, he's my homeboy. I love him. He is a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Freak of nature.
Yeah.
But why were they throwing at you? And I can get into the now. I know why they was throwing at him, and he got his story. I see, and he thought about, they are throwing at me quite a bit on. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't throw at you knowing how bad you are. But and they throwing to the left. Most teams throw to their right 75% of the time until they get to Pittsburgh. They throw at you. Why are they throwing at you? It doesn't. You figured out. He was sitting there scratching the head. But anyway, no, they didn't. And really, so it was just Chuck would say, "Great game, easy day at the office," and they
Meaning they didn't throw to you.
Yeah, they did. They didn't throw a lot. So basically, if the guy's covered, you're not going to throw the guy. But at the same time, I tell you something very interesting though. I went in to renegotiate my contract, and the Steelers would not allow me to put an interception clause in my contract. All other guys had one, and I walked out of my negotiation. I said, Dan, that's not right. He said, we can't do it. Well, Chuck told him not to let T put an interception clause in his contract. I didn't know this. I go to Bill Nunn. I said, Bill, man, this is jacked up. I said, all those guys got interception clause, and I can't have one. And he said, T, he didn't know why. Maybe he did, I don't know. But never. He said, listen, don't go in there and get in a pissing contest with Dan Rooney. You can't out-piss him. He said, you need to come up with something else for compensation. He said, go think about it. So, and I went back with him, and I told him Mike and Glenn and Eric, whatever. So, well, Chuck said, we don't want it. He said, it adds too much risk. Risk? What are you talking about? I'm risks. It does make sense. We don't want me going after intercepting for money. He said, we have too much risk back there. So what I came up with was a touchdown yield clause. And it basically will work. I said, well, if I give up 5 or less touchdowns a year, I get compensated. And Dan said, okay, 5 touchdowns, over 5, you get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And our average, which people don't know, only average getting beat 3 times a year, my whole career. But they weren't keeping that stat. See, I did because I get paid off of it. So now today, they have shutdown corner, lockdown corner. Even you break up a pass, they get paid for break. Oh, he had 15 breakups this year. I can't count the damn breakup I had. God dang. I mean, where the guy just couldn't get off the line of scrimmage, or I'm on them like white on rice. Well, they didn't count that. It's just, like Chuck said, easy day at the office.
Easy day at the office. So when you come into the first training camp, if I recall, I think it was Ron Shanklin and Frank Lewis were the wide receivers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ron Shanklin got a lot of press.
A lot of press.
But you have something to say about both of those wide receivers. Because you were playing against them in training camp.
Frank Lewis probably is the best fast watch ever came through the training camp.
Frank Lewis?
Frank Lewis, yeah.
Was the what?
The best.
The best.
Ever, yeah, you ask Mel Blount, even against Starworth is great. Ask Mel Blount, ask a lot of NFL players, Frank Lewis, a wide receiver. Dangerous guy from Grambling. He would walk a 4-3. I mean, just walk it. You see defensive, backs back up on Frank Lewis. The problem was Bradshaw at that time was throwing primarily to his right, Ron Shanklin. Ron Shanklin was the go-to guy. And Frank was kind of afterthought. Frank was, quiet guy, not going to say anything. But that was Bradshaw. Now, these both guys were all pro talents. Frank left, he went to Buffalo and just raised all kind of hell. But when Swan and Stallworth moved into the slot, Bradshaw was doing the same thing. He was doing the Swan. You didn't hear about Stallworth. Stallworth was a little more vocal. Stallworth went to Chuck and said, wait a minute, I'm running down the field, getting open, wasting a lot of energy, and I mean get looked at. I mean, he can't throw the ball over here, can he? Bradshaw come to the realization, wait a minute here, I got another receiver over here, you know, because he was conditioned to go to Swan. Swan was the guy.
So you said Frank Lewis was the best, but he was underutilized because Terry Bradshaw is now looking to the left.
No. He was on to Shanklin. Shanklin was the guy. And Shanklin's a great All-Pro, but you had a guy over here. Imagine if he had found Frank Lewis. Oh my God, Frank Lewis was one of the fastest guys on the team. I mean, at hands, just as amazing athlete. And I've covered all four of those. If you ask Mel Blount today, I guarantee you, the one threat that he would say the biggest threat would be Frank Lewis.
How about that?
Yeah,
That's
well, most
news.
folks don't know. It's all what's promoted and who's going to put history out there, you know.
But you were on the field.
Yeah,
You know what was going on.
I know these guys, and we admire each other's talent, and you can see, God dang. Now, there were defensive backs that we had one that came through here that probably were better than Mel and myself. Jimmy Allen. Jimmy Allen came in with Donnie Shell. Jimmy Allen Mel and I look at him and say, God, he is a freak. I mean, the things he could do, he didn't have the maturity to enter into NFL. Yeah, he just wasn't mature enough.
But he had talent
Oh.
all over the place.
Oh, talent. I've seen a lot of guys come through much better than me. Oh yeah, but it takes much more than just the physical attributes. There's a mental aspect of it. There's a maturity aspect, and and a lot of guys don't have that. I've seen some guys. Oh my God, that dude is ridiculous. And Jimmy Allen was one of them. He's ridiculous. He could play both corners. Most guys can't play both corners well. Mel and I can. Mel can play one side of the field, right. I want to play one left. We moved one time with flip-flop, and Bud Carson saw that. He said, let me tell you something. JT, don't you never take your ass on the right side. Mel, don't you ever take your ass on the left side. Our career would have been shortened. It's kind of like sleeping on the side of the bed that you're not used to. And they said, no, that don't work. Mel, don't come over here. JT, don't go over there. Because
So this is making me think of something because you like basketball.
Yeah.
I love basketball. So this past year, the Pacers played the Thunder.
Yeah.
And there's a kid from Pittsburgh named T.J. McConnell.
Mm-hmm.
And my son played against him in youth basketball. And this guy is in the NBA playing against thoroughbreds.
yes, thoroughbreds.
And he's this tall, and they this tall, and they can jump through the roof.
Yeah.
And he can't.
No, but
But yet, he's very effective and very productive. So this goes back to the conversation of you saying you got these Jimmy Allens walking in.
yeah.
And we had TJ's uncle here one day, Pete Serio, who coaches for Upper St. Clair, and he said that he gets 100% of what he got, whereas those bigger, faster, more athletic guys might get 50%,
Right.
60%, but TJ's getting 100%. So is that what you're trying to say when you talk about a Jimmy Allen and the people that came into your training camps and you both looked at them, you and Mel Blount, saying, wow. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, in the NFL, the physical talent and the speed is almost the same. It's not a big differential there. There's some, but for the most part, you can find someone that matches what you do. It goes more to now the mental character and intestinal fortitude that makes the difference. It goes back to what they used to look for in camp was the gut check. The gut check is, will I reach beyond my grasp? And some people can't, and some people will reach beyond that grass and continue to reach. And that's the gut check that they used to strive for in training camp. Because everybody's fast. Everybody can lift weights. You know, everybody's on a 440. What's that? What is the defining?
difference.
What's the difference? What's the defining factor here? And it goes back to the heart. Like a guy like Rocky Bleier. Rocky Bleier probably, if you just took the coming in, no, every team gonna cut him. Every team gonna cut Rocky Bleier. If you just look at the charts they're looking at, Rocky Bleier don't play. But why does Rocky Bleier play? Well, you look at Rocky's character. Look at Rocky's heart, his determination. What he gonna do things that you would not do. You look at him, even playing football. He got the toe blown off, you know. And in Vietnam, I mean, you think about dealing with that whole death-facing scenario, being mutilated, and you come back. You gonna play ball? You gonna walk? You know, you're gonna defy whatever the doctor says. You know, and it's that character. Like like I said, I had a disease that I contracted called sarcoidosis. There's no cure for sarcoidosis.
What is sarcoidosis?
Sarcoidosis is an infection that affects your immune system, normally in your lymph nodes. And it can affect any organ, your eyes, but with the main effect of my lungs, breathing. A matter of fact, Reggie Williams from the Green Bay Packers died because of that. The comedian Bernie Mac died because of sarcoidosis. Sarcoidosis is very common, often misdiagnosed, and there's no cure for it. Never have been. And they know as much about it now than they did when I contracted over 50 years ago. You know, they treated with prednisone like everything else. You know.
You contracted that during your Steeler career.
Yeah, I had it. I knew I had it, but it was dormant. Didn't do anything. It was dormant. It was there. Okay, it was fine. So then it flared up, you know. And so there was no cure for it. I ended up sitting out a year not knowing what was going to happen. But what I did, I took matters in my own hand. I said, well, what happened is that my system was weak. Something got into my body because of my immune system. So how do I build my system back up? It was hit or miss. And I had a very chronic case of it. It was chronic as heck. I started jumping rope. And how I did that, Dr. J was in town, Jules Urban, the basketball, doing a movie called The Fish to Save Pittsburgh. And he was working out, and I was downtown working on the treadmill there, and he said, T, he's rehabbing a knee, I think, at the time. He said, why don't you try jumping rope? I said, listen, Jay, I ain't jumping on rope, man. Girls jump rope. He said, no, try to jump 1 minute, 2 minutes, you build your time up. So I got into it as part of my process. I got to the point, the most I ever jumped rope was 2.5 hours nonstop. I ended up...
It's hard to believe.
I know what I mean. Well, then I got to the point, where jumping an hour rope was nothing. I mean, I would do 3 times jump an hour. I have 3 puddles at the gym. I had to get out of the sweat. But it was a norm. I'd rather jump rope for an hour than jog a mile. I did a lot of running also. But it became so natural. But what I did, my cardiovascular system went off the chart, although I had less lung capacity. And my cardiovascular was better than any guys on the team.
So are you saying Dr. J helped resurrect your career?
Well, with that advice, 'cause I never would have thought about jumping rope because I'm running, but the rope was something that really, because that's what it was testing me, my cardiovascular and my lung capacity and my ability. What I learned to do, I wasn't aware of at the time. The doctors from Pitt came trying to figure out what the heck did I do. I'm on a treadmill walking, and my heart rate would drop at my pulse and everything would drop at 13 minutes. Most guys are going to cardiac arrest, and they saw at weird times my heart rate or pulse was dropping. And they said, well, why does it drop? And they concluded that I had learned to use oxygen so proficiently, only use it when I needed to. And that's the mind, where I had convinced my mind or controlled my mind to condition it and my body to use oxygen so proficiently because I had lost about 50% of my lung capacity through scar tissue from the sarcoma. So they're trying to figure, wait a minute, he done lost lung capacity and at 13 minutes, most guys are going to cardiac arrest, and he's going into some resting mode. So it goes back to it shows back to the mindset of how powerful the mind is. And I think one of the things in my era, that's what Chuck Knowles was able to do. His greatest skill set was the ability to communicate to you. He could be talking to 60 players and talk to you only. That's how good he was. And you knew he was talking to you. Yet everyone else, and to do that, you have to know the players. You have to get into their head, know their character, their weakness, their strength, and that was probably his greatest skill set, is to communicate to you.
I was just watching something the other day of a player being interviewed saying, I like to be coached hard. And they always talk about the great coaches know how to coach players.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's right. Like, maybe you needed to be coached hard, but Mel Blount needed it a different way.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought to myself, maybe a coach could even ask the player, as opposed to trying to learn it over a long period of time, say, JT, what do you respond to? And I'm thinking about this because I run a youth sports program and teach coaches how to coach. I don't think it's a bad idea to ask kids, how do you think's the best way to coach you? Now, you may end up doing it differently, but it might give you some information. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think the kid would know. Like, you don't know.
Oh, that's true. A kid wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
How about you? How about you at the Steelers?
No,
would you know at that point?
No, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. And I think it's like a mother. The child cannot speak. She's taking care of it, but she knows what that child needs. Now, how do you know? I don't know that innate connection, how that happened. But it goes back to, I think, that you have to go back to the 95% rule, that 95% of us all together. I use it a lot of times when I talk with people. Being an African American, think about when I would go out and speak to a white audience. Okay.
Yeah. What was that like?
Well, how would I speak to a white audience? I don't know their lifestyle, their culture, where they come from. I know their religion. So how do I speak to them?
Did you remember your mother's words?
I did. I learned that we want to say we're all different. We're not all different. We are this tight together. You ever been to a gym and there's 1 million lockers? Well, all the 6 guys are in this one area less than 5 feet apart. Wait a minute, why are we here? Why are you over there? And ain't nobody but us in here, but we here all trying to get dressed. Well, I think it goes back to my thoughts. 95% of you is just like me. Now, if I deal with who I am, my fears, my shortcomings, my aspirations, yours are just like mine. And what I found out when I would go out into a situation speaking, well, I'm the fly in the bowl of milk. What do I speak to? And I've done it many times. I have prepared to speak sometimes, and then that didn't go because they can't identify. I deal with me. But I have to deal with me honestly. I have to deal with those honest fears, those honest thoughts, those honest shortcomings, and talk about them. But what I used to do, I used to talk to them through, well, this friend of mine. Well, the friend of mine is JT. I was talking to this dude the other day, he always talking this stuff. And all of a sudden he comes, you know what? That happened to me. I got a friend just like, the only thing I was doing is being honest about who I am. See, we don't want to put ourselves out there because you may not like me. You may reject me.
Yeah.
So
Fear
I'm
of
not going to
rejection.
put me out there. So I'm going to put out here what I think you. So it's easy for me to give a speech. I just start talking about me. But I have to be honest about me. Then I found out you are just like me because they tell me I'm just like you, you know. And so I think in that vein of being true to self but honest with self, it's easy for you to communicate with others because you find out how common we are.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, JT, because I speak in high schools, and I work for the Center for Organ Recovery and Education. It's the organ transplant awareness, and I got high school kids. So what I do at first is I talk about my insecurities when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And it was mainly with girls.
Yeah.
I could talk to girls, but I didn't know what else to do with the
Right, yeah,
girls
right.
because I could hit a baseball, I could shoot a basketball, I could catch a football, but there's a girl there, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, right.
I'll talk to you,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Yeah.
And so when I tell the kids that, boy, do they react
Yeah.
because they're in the middle of it right now.
They can relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make fun of myself, self-deprecating humor,
Yeah.
and they love that.
Yeah.
And then once you get that with your audience, now you can really talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Now you got that.
It goes back to the common denominator. Like I told you when I don't know if I told you not, at the Catholic school, I had a problem with Sister Gemma in the 3rd grade. Me and my friend Cedric are doing adding fractions. So she keep us there, you know. We couldn't go to recess this day because we were kind of done with these fractions and add them. So she said, JT, okay, your numerator is 2. I said, okay. Cedric, yours is 3. Cedric says 3, okay. What's the common denominator? I said 2. She frowned at me because my numerator is 2, so I got a common denominator is 2. Cedric, what's your common denominator? Well, his numerator is 3. He said 3. She looked at us, she said, you both selfish. You're going to hell. That's a mortal sin. 2 over 2 is 1. 3 over 3 is 1. It's all about you. You can't have a common denominator the same as your numerator. That means you're a sinner. Because in the Catholic Church, everything's a mortal sin. You have mortal sins. I wonder how the hell I was going to get to heaven because everything was a mortal sin. But anyway, we finally figured out that the common denominator is 6, he and I. She said, no, see, it's 6. See, it doesn't change your numerator, who you are. It doesn't change your setter, but you can work together. And so now that analogy gave me how to figure it out. But the broader lesson was the fact that the common denominator, we don't look for common denominators. We look for dominance. We don't look for mutual interests. You know, if we did, my God, wouldn't it be a great place?
Yeah, wouldn't it be a great place?
But that's not what we do.
if we work together.
Yeah. So I've learned in business negotiating, if you're negotiating something, I know what I want, what you want. I learned what's the common denominator here, you know, and yeah.
You know, when I leave this interview, I want to think about your mother's words. About 95% of us are similar.
All the same. And so I approach, that's why
about
I don't approach with fears, racist ideas or prejudice, because I'm not surprised at what you do. Like, because you do it different from me, don't make a difference. But you're just like me. So I'm not intimidated by you or afraid of you, you know, because you're just like me.
What's your mother's name?
Her name was Annie Ruth Thomas.
Annie Ruth Thomas. What was her maiden name?
Annie Ruth Bentley.
Annie Ruth Bentley Thomas.
Yeah.
A wise woman. And we're going to show her picture. You know, you're
Yeah.
going to bring some pictures.
I have pictures of her,
Yeah, we're
yes,
going to show
definitely.
her picture. So let's go back to the Steelers.
Okay.
And, you know, I think a lot of people want to hear about that. And, you know, you and I, we had some conversations prior to this interview. And you had some really neat stuff to talk about Franco. And let's start with Franco at practice and what Chuck Noll would say about him at practice.
Yeah, you know, Chuck Noll is a very punctual, time constraint, systematic type guy. As we know, Franco was always late or got there just in time. Case in point, we have a meeting at 10 o'clock, okay? Normally, in Chuck Noll's mind, that's 9:45, not 10 o'clock. And that means that you're dressed in pants, shoes, everything except headgear and shoulder pads on, okay? Franco comes in 10 to 10, putting on socks, pair of short pants and a t-shirt. Most of the guys are dressed except the headgear and shoulder pads. We go on the field, not Franco. He comes in putting on one sock, and Chuck standing there looks at him. He's on time, but in Chuck Noll's mind, he's not on time. He's not even dressed, you know. And so when you get to the practice field, same way. Chuck Noll is very structured. He has so many plays, and like most of our plays from the middle of the field, most plays are about 20 yards, and you come back to the huddle. Because Chuck, not Franco. Franco runs a play. He gets in the secondary, and he likes in the game, he gonna juke you, make us chase him, and he runs to the goal line, 50 yards. And he's talking stuff, here come OJ, here come Earl. You know, he called out other running backs in the secondary, so we got to chase his ass 50 yards. Now, here's the problem. Got to jog back 50 yards. This time frame goes out of Chuck Noll's schedule here because Franco is messing up everything. And Chuck's always say, we're waiting on Franco. We're waiting on Franco. He couldn't say Franco. Franco ran every play as if it was a real play. He go through the line, he jukes, he makes his move, takes off to the goal line. No one does that, you know. So every play he run 100 yards. So Chuck, I'm sure in his mind, said we're waiting on Franco. And he got to the point he took the grimace out of his voice, but he kept saying them because I'm sure he got into the time schedule. But you think about what Franco was doing, what habit was creating. Every play, he was going to score. And I thought about that. How many times in the game we were behind in a situation, we were all waiting on Franco. And so when you look at that, and Chuck was sad, but it just became a comment. There was no attitude to it because here's a guy, every play, he's running 100 yards. Every play. Not going to 20 and back to the hole, every play. So those dynamics there, you have to think about how Chuck was wise enough to channel that, his anger, because Frank was making practice much longer than it should be out here. But then let's go back to Chuck Noll. His ability to, resonate, to tie into what was going on. Yeah.
Now, off the field, Franco was a pretty special guy from what you had told me.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't you tell a story or two about that illustrates how special of a guy Franco was?
Well, my problem, which shouldn't have been a problem, was that Franco, and we all knew that Franco was always late. And I used to joke with him. I said, you're going to be late going to hell. He said, well, they may not let me in, stuff like he would joke it off. But in terms of, I found out really more recent, matter of fact, within the year that he passed, as to why he was late. He wasn't late because he was wasting his time or not managing his time. He was giving his time. Where most people don't give their time. Most celebrities, whatever, I got to go. I say, I got to run. Oh, no. He stops and just talks to people. I mean, we were, a few weeks before he passed, we was downtown having dinner, and we come out by 10:30. And he's parked in front of me, so it's late, and he's pulling out, so I'm pulling out, and all of a sudden he stops. Well, he stopped because these homeless people coming from out of the shadows of downtown see it's Franco Harris. And I said, what he's stopping for, waving, get the hell on, let's get out of downtown. No, he rolling his window down, having a conversation. I say, do we have to fight here? They try to mug him or something, you know? And I'm sitting here about 3 to 5 minutes. He's carrying this conversation with homeless people, and I'm pissed because I mean,
You want to go home?
I want to go home, and while he's doing this, and it didn't hit me at all in terms of who he was. This whole late thing. Once I had to introduce him, so I'm with him and his wife Dana at this, where he was, the keynote speaker. So I introduced him. So a lot of people. So when time to go, people's leaving. So I said, "It's time to go." Yeah. Dana said, "Yeah." She sits down and
You talk about his wife.
his wife, Dana, she takes off her shoes. I say, "What the heck are you doing taking off your shoes?"
After it's over.
Yeah, so people leaving. She say, "Do you think we leaving here now?" She say, "We'll leave with the janitor." She know this man. I didn't know him that way. Well, lo and behold, when I left there, it's Franco, I, and Dana, and the custodian who locked up the building was walking out. Franco had promised him a picture. He couldn't get the picture until he finished. It's only 3 cars in the parking lot. It must have been 800 people there. But that's him and the time. But, well, like I say, I knew him, and I talk about his character as a person. We roommates together. I never talked on the spiritual side of life with Franco. I know he's a good person, because he gives. Matter of fact, on that end, a few months before he passed, going to the holidays, Dana calls me and say, "JT." I said, "What's wrong, Dana?" She said, "Listen here, don't tell Franco anything about a charity or a donation or anybody that in need is going to the holidays, because he don't have sense that he cannot support everybody that asks for money. So don't you tell him about anything."
He can't say no.
No, he say, right, he can't say no. So don't you tell him about any charity or any homeless person or anybody that's hungry, okay? Don't you say no. I said, they not won't say anything. but anyway, right after his birthday, the year he passed, like I said, we was walking to his office, and I maybe share this with you. And like I said, we never talked things spiritual. I knew he was Catholic, reared Catholic. I knew his family and all that. But so I sat there, I said, "Franco, listen," I said, "Are you a Christian?" Just based on me, devout Christian. And, Franco never answered immediately. He kind of walked, paused, and answered later. He got to the office door, and what he said blew me away. This is what his response was. He said, "No, I'm not a Christian." He said, "I'm a disciple." He chuckled and I choke, because at that I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that answer, but even to be cognizant of the difference spoke volume to who he was. That he would. Most folks don't know that there's a difference. Most people don't contrast that. He had, and for him to know that threw me for a loop, because I said, "Well, who is this dude?" I mean, what? It explained a lot of things that for 50 years I didn't know. Why? I thought he's just bad time management.
He is one of the most beloved Steelers of the Super Bowl winning championship team, because he was in Pittsburgh. He stayed in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You stayed in Pittsburgh. Not everybody stayed in Pittsburgh.
No.
But when he was out, he was talking to people.
Yeah, one thing, we had a kind of get together afterwards, the players, and guys was trying to explain what, who Franco was, and I made the comment. I said, he's the kind of person that if you call him at 2 a.m. in the morning and wake him up, and whatever you tell him, there's only 2 things he's gonna ask you. What do you need? What can I do? He's not going to ask you why, who, how, none of that kind of stuff. And all the guys kind of got silent and say, yeah, that's him.
It's amazing.
It is, because see, most people call me and told me, I don't know, man, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
kind of late. Let me think about it. Oh, no. Franco will ask you only those two things. What do you need? What can I do?
What a
No,
soul.
that's awesome. And that's the soul of Franco Harris that
Yeah.
people don't know.
No, they don't
know,
know.
they
And
don't know that,
The
no.
Steelers almost drafted who Robert Newsom and Lydell Mitchell
Lydell
was the
Mitchell,
star.
Yeah.
But they took Franco, who wasn't the big star at
No, he
Penn
wasn't.
State.
No.
But boy, Chuck Noll knew what he was doing.
Right. Yeah, he did. Yeah. And like I say, speak volume to a lot of people don't know the why. They just kind of celebrate what is, but they don't look at the why, and the why is so critical because it defines so many things about people, about life, and that's why you ask people why, you get behind a veil here, a wall, and they'll get very defensive. Why? Because I want to. Why? None of your business. Why? You getting into my business? Because why is intrusive and invasive. we don't like whys.
Yeah.
Really, it's our nature.
Well, I appreciate you sharing
Mm-hmm.
that about Franco because I know so many people love him in this city.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been gone for a little while.
Yeah.
And he's just he's larger than life
He
in
is, he
some
is, he
ways.
is, he is.
The Italian army. So I appreciate you sharing some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to talk about some other players. Let's go to Mel Blount. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mel Blount, I met him one day down in the Strip District, and I'm looking up at him. I'm 6 foot tall,
Yeah.
and I'm looking up at him. He got the big old hat on, and
yeah.
I mean, he's looking way. That hat takes him even higher.
Higher, and he wore cowboy boots.
Yeah, right.
So
It's-
so he is towering over most things and most people.
And now this is a guy that was physical, big and physical, and they changed the rules. I mean, how many players in the National Football League did they change the rules?
Well, I go back on only one of them. I tell them all the time. I say, well, if you, I mean, really, I think it's an honor to tell them that they changed it after you. But what you were doing had to be taking place other place on the field, because if you that bad, don't throw to you. What he was doing was being done by a lot of guys on the team. The defensive backs, Mel was the difference how Mel did it was he was boisterous, he was loud about it, he had a criminal element about what he did, because we had a lot of guys that played that way, but they were probably a little more sophisticated, a little more clandestine. When it was going on there, forget Jack Tatum and the guy Skip Thomas from the Oakland Raiders, and Biletnikoff, they had a negative comment on me. Yeah. Don't let JT fool you to smile. He's just as nasty as Mel. He's just smiling about it all the time, And you look around. What Mel did was unique. He was dominating. There's no doubt about it. He was the greatest skill. I'm gonna tell you the secret he had. You know that cartoon, The Road Runner?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Mel had what we call a road runner gear. Most guys don't have that gear. There are a few guys in the NFL have it. Deion Sanders got that gear. It's a gear where at the last second he gets out of danger. It looks like, he is caught. Mel Blount had that gear. You would see Mel Blount in a route, and he looks beat. He is beat from Bud Carson's eyes. He's beat from everybody's eyes watching the film. And he is beat. So the quarterback got to see, I got 6 points here. Mel Blount got this gear. And most players got a 7.5, 8 foot stride. So imagine you have the ability to hit a gear that you gain 8 feet. one stride, you know. Yeah. Everyone can't pump in that gear. Deion Sanders, there are a few. John Stallworth was similar like that. When the ball's in the air, they turn it into some weird, freaky people. And I seen Mel do it all the time where I know he's beat. The quarterback knows he's beat. Mel is not beat. And that talent is why they threw at him. I know why they threw at him. Because Bud Carson would sit there and say, "But Soup, you beat." "No, I ain't beat." You know, your ass is beat, Mel. Yeah, at that moment.
What did you call? What's his nickname?
Soup.
Why'd you call him that?
For Super.
Oh,
That's why we called him Soup. Because of that. And what Mel Blount's talent is that gear they don't talk about. That's what it is. Because the normal person is 6 points.
yeah.
And you see him and you say, he is beat. He is beat. And then, I don't know, this freak come into play. He ain't beat.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested in this. You know, you're playing in Three Rivers Stadium. You're playing in all these other stadiums. You're playing in the Super Bowls and the playoff games. And you and Mel Blount are the corners. And you have to guard these wide receivers that are freaky athletes and have
fast,
the jets.
Yeah.
They got jets, and you have to run backwards.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like, and I was a quick little thing. I'm down in Atlanta, and I get in this flag football league, and I'm playing corner, and I could run backwards. Not like you, but I could run backwards. And so I started getting a little confident. And I started jumping routes.
Yeah.
And they saw that, and they pump fake me, and they go deep. So the point I'm saying is, you're on an island out there.
You are. Very.
And so what's it like? You're playing in front of millions of people.
Yep.
And you're on an island.
Yep.
Do you realize that? What's going through your head?
Well, the margin for error is very small. One fake is 6 points, and guess what? It's Pearl Harbor, and everybody know you got bombed. Now, Joe Green can miss a tackle. They can miss a linebacker, miss a play. You don't see it. You make a mistake, hey, they used to say the eye in the sky don't lie. It's seen. It has to do with your thought process that you're in control of it. That, case in point, today when they play bump and run, most guys don't bump. They get up there and they bail out. Well, we said, why are you bailing out? Get the jam. They're afraid to get the jam because they missed the jam. It's sick, so we're going to take a chance and get out of here. Where I would think, if I don't get the jam, I'm screwed. It's all how you it's about how you
Different mindset.
How you look at. I want the jam. I hate this distance because I feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get me turned because once I'm turned, I don't know. I want to stay straight. So it's a whole different psychology playing the corner. They get up in a bump and run today. They never bump. They just get up there. Well, if you're not going to hit him, get back.
Yeah.
Why get up there and create a foot race? So it goes back to how you perceive life.
But did you feel the pressure?
No.
Is that because your mother?
No, even, I might have covered. I had to cover, Bob Hayes in his career. Now, Bob Hayes, I knew Bob Hayes. No, come on.
World-class sprinter.
Yeah, world fastest human at one time. There are a lot of guys that were world-class sprinters you covered, but I'm not running a track meet. Most sprinters, within 40 or 50 yards, you're even. Now you got to deal with me, some obstacles. So now I'm gonna mitigate your speed. This is not a track meet; it's a football field. So you have to get inside. Where am I at? It really doesn't matter. I look at it this way. Let's say, for instance, the standard for whatever. The standard is to go from. San Francisco Bay to Hawaii. We all got to swim. That's the standard. Whether to get here, get to heaven, whatever the case may be. Well, it doesn't matter. You get Mark Spitz or whoever. It doesn't matter because you're not going to make the standard. So when you look at stuff here, I don't care you Mark Spitz swimming from San Francisco Bay to Hawaii, or me swimming, or whoever spinning. The other guy, Michael, whatever his name is.
Phelps.
Yeah. It don't matter. Because the standard. So once you understand the standard of the game or where it is, everybody falls into the same standard. So you kind of reduce that. And your speed is excellent, your quickness is excellent, but within the standard, it goes back to the common denominator thing, you know. And you can look at things different and throw them out of whack, but I don't. Getting out there on a sprinter, bump and run, I'm not thinking about you going to beat. I'm thinking about no, you're not going to beat me. It's all how you program the thinking in your head. Yeah, and some guys don't like that. They don't like man. Want to play zone defense. But we were conditioned. See, I know the era. I grew up a kid playing man-to-man defense. I feel very vulnerable if I can get my hands on you. To me, you running free out there. No, I don't play no zone because every zone turn into a man. When? I don't know when to turn into a man. If I got you, I got you. So it's all how you wired and thinking. We used to check out of some zone defenses and go to man ourselves, pretend we missed a call, because it's like most things is, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. So it goes in that dynamics.
We're coming towards the end of part 3 with you, but I want you to just touch on something that you just said, encapsulate the criminal element of playing defense. It makes them laugh.
You know, that was a big thing because Chuck Noll, you know, it went back to him. He is really the originator of this criminality that going on, in the football field, because it went out from the Steelers allowing Joe Green to do what he wants to do, and the Steelers were a criminal team. And because of the aggression that we had, there was a criminal element that they wanted to bestow upon us during that time. And there was some pride taken in it, believe it or not, although Chuck pushed back on the criminal. It was a physical ball team. And once you start looking at it, you convince people that's criminal. You can convince people of any lie or anything sometimes if you say it often enough. And when you see guys like Mel Blount, and there was some criminal things. I must say, you know, you got Joe Green punching guys in the gut on national TV, spitting in guys' face, you know, getting thrown out of games, taking the football and throwing it up in the stands. You know, they telling Joe, get off the field. He's out of the game. He goes down and sit on the goalpost and watch the game on his headgear, and they don't ask him to move because it's Joe Green. So he's done that. Green is out of the game. Well, where you go? He goes down and sit on next to the goalpost. You think those officials going to come out and tell him, get off the field? No, they're not. But so, and so people look at our style of play as criminal, but it was just a very physical and probably above. And look at that intensity. It's you know, I'm sure if you went on a racetrack car, the racetrack and was driving, you would feel very intimidated by those guys driving around there.
Well, you know, the Steeler fans are a little biased.
Oh, sure.
And so that we didn't think of you guys as the criminals. We always thought it was the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
And Jack Tatum and George
Right.
Atkinson.
That
they
was
were
true.
taking some cheap shots.
Yeah.
But we kind of let you guys slide because we loved you so much.
Yeah.
You know?
But the mentality, it fits into the toughness of the steel industry, the area. This is hardcore,
Blue collar,
and blue
tough.
collar, and it reflects the grit, the grind, the hard work.
Yeah.
You know, in the steel mills, and
That's
who
right.
does this kind of sweating, you know, profusely, and
You gotta be tough.
Yeah, be able to, you know, to take down 12 beers and get up and go back to work, and I mean, come on, all that persona. He said, "Wow, that's us."
And I think really that was one of the reasons this city just absolutely loved you.
Oh yeah, it was, yeah.
It's a blue collar, hard working city, and you guys in the Steel Curtain really got after it.
Yeah.
And you weren't going to let anybody push you around.
And that was Pittsburgh. I guess when the steel mill makes an exodus out of here, the people had to gear down and say, wait a minute, this is who thought the steel mills would leave? No one did.
Right.
No one thought that.
That's true.
But the people had to transform themselves and really gut it out, and they became very tough and resilient. And it came to the philosophy, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And it still had that philosophy, whatever it takes. And that was the epitome of, this area, the attitude, the disposition here. So, yeah.
How special is it that a kid from Macon, Georgia, who's the first black player to play at Florida State, ends up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right at the beginning of the Super Bowl era?
Oh, it was a blessing. It's awesome. But you didn't see that, though. You had no idea where the results here. No one could have calculated that or predict that, or even would have thought that. I mean, who would have thought? Pittsburgh? I mean, when I came here, I couldn't tell.
You were not dreaming as a kid to become a Pittsburgh Steeler.
No. When I came here, I mean, I'm riding down the parkway and the soot is outside. I mean, it's just a normal thing, the air, my car. I was in my car one day going to practice. Back then we smoked. I smoked a pipe. And I've dropped some tobacco on my jeans. There's a plastic drink holder here. And I'm at the Boulevard Allies going to practice. And I see this stuff flying around in the air. Well, that's typical. That's Pittsburgh. Stuff always in the air. I don't realize I'm on fire. Things on fire. Because I'm accustomed to this soot in the air. I pull over and threw this thing out, got a hold of my jeans here. But that was Pittsburgh then. It was just the culture of what it was, and you live with it, and you adapted to it, but you really know that it was transformative, all that was.
Yeah. Well, another wonderful hour with you. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your time with us and all of your great memories of being a Super Steeler.
Oh, thank you.
It's just really wonderful. Thank you so much for
my pleasure, buddy. Always. And thank you for watching. And I'll leave you with this. If you, your mother, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, they needed an organ transplant to save their life, please consider being an organ donor, because we would all take it if we need it. You can give the gift of life. And thank you for watching another edition of One on One. I'm your host, Lee Adams. Take care of yourself.